And g'day YouTubers, it's Spaceman AUS here. I just wanted to have a bit of a chat to you guys about the lie that you're being told about Tutankhamun today. I want to talk about a film I saw as a 9-year-old boy, and this is over 45 years ago. I'm 53 years old now, so I just thought I need to tell this story because you're all being lied to about this Tutankhamun and about him being buried in resin. Alright? This film I seen as a boy was found in the archives of one of the TV stations in Melbourne, Victoria, in Australia. And the way they advertised it was stating that it was a live recording of the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb, and it was a live recording. Okay, now the reason when the film starts, the guy explains why the film was made in the first place, and that about how all the archaeologists around the world were all hunting for the Tutankhamun's tomb, and had read about him on another pyramid. So they all went hunting, hoping to be the one to find it, this golden casket. Well, they dug around for months, and no one was doing any good. They couldn't even find the city, so they started to wonder, if it was even real. Some of them started going home. It was only when one of the archaeologists realised, that they had a lot of floods and possibly landslides and that, so they went off looking down the Nile further, and of course they found it. Now, because it had been going on for so long, and when they found the city, they basically brought all the ground level back down to the this flat plateau, back down to the ground level of the ruins that they were finding around the place. And it was a really big event, over the 6 months. Another 6 months go by, and basically every Egyptian went there and dug this city out of the sand, all by shovel, all by hand. And it was a really big news event at the time. Well, because they'd done so much work, and it was said they hadn't found it, all the countries had made an agreement that whoever did find it had to record it live, so no secrets could be kept. And that's why I got to see this film. And it was made by the actual archaeologist that found the tomb, and he's the one narrating over the stuff that they are talking about. Now they show you, things that they find. Each week they did a bit of a film to, show you what was discovered, or what things had changed, the progress, And anyway, when they brought everything back to ground level, all the grass started coming up everywhere, and it only lasted a while. It was because they had exposed all the moist soil to the sunlight again. The grass grew, and it left all these 2-metre wide tracks everywhere, and they thought they were first street plans or something, but they weren't making no sense to them, so they ended up flying above it all and filmed it from above, and it turned out to be these pictures of 4 insects. One was a spider, I think a scarab beetle, a grasshopper, and a scorpion, I think, from memory. But anyway, the spider was the one that I remembered, because they remarked about how it had its 8 eyes, and how the Egyptians must have had microscopes to know that, So they then speculated that they could have made that, though, using water droplets suspended in a couple of rings of copper wire at different sizes, and one above the other, and they demonstrated that. But then they wondered why the grass wasn't growing, and they tested the soil. Well, it turned out the soil was burnt with nuclear radiation 6 metres down past all fertile soil, so nothing will ever grow there again. Now, they couldn't explain that one away, you know, because these pictures, like they're 7 kilometres wide, each one of them, you know, they're huge and perfectly drawn to scale and drawn in nuclear radiation. So anyway, they decided to move on from that then and went into the opening of the King's Chamber. When they went there, they were walking along in a trench, and they had like the plateau on one side that was up about shoulder height. It hadn't been brought back down to ground level, this area yet. And on the left side was a cliff face where, when they were walking along, they come across the servant's tomb. And they point that out, that they'd found that as well, and that they weren't going to open that yet, though. They wanted to go and open the King's Chamber and make sure that the king wasn't in there first, you know. So they went on then, further on to the King's Chamber, and they open it up. So when they go into the King's Chamber, all they found in there was the red marble sarcophagus, a bunch of vases, these tall vases, about, you know, a couple of foot tall or something, I suppose, and a small pile of possessions on the floor. And they sort of pretty well straight away assumed that this was going to be the servant, you know, because of such the lack of treasures. So anyway, they open up this red marble sarcophagus to confirm their thoughts, and sure enough, all that was in it was a casket with no lid and a mummy in there that had been covered in black resin. They'd poured it down his throat and filled up the whole casket, you know, with the resin. And they even commented about that in the film, saying that what they'd done is smuggled in the resin in these vases that were in the tomb and poured it in there and tried to do it like a poor man's version of mummification on him. And how much they must have really liked this guy, you know, because it was a big risk they took. Because mummification was only meant for royalty. So, yeah, to do what they did was a big risk, and that is why they used the resin in the first place. Now, they go from there then back to opening up the servant's tomb. And when they did that, that was the first servant's tomb they'd ever come across. It had 2 doors with a curse on each door. But that didn't bother them. They pulled them out and in they go. Now, as they go into the entrance into the room where the sarcophagus is, you know, the sarcophagus was sort of like right in front of the entrance. So as they go in there, though, they turn to the left, and that's where they found all the artefacts against the left-hand side wall. Around the back of the sarcophagus was also some more artefacts. But when they turned to the right, there was a small jet airplane, probably about 15 foot long, I suppose. It had the thruster on the back, and the wings were taken off and laying up against the fuselage. Now, they didn't stay on it for very long. I don't know why. It was pretty interesting to me, but they switched back over towards the casket, you know, to reveal this. You know, they were keen to find out about this golden casket, of course, right? So they go back to the stone sarcophagus and they open up that. And why you people think that, you know, a golden casket that's been placed in a stone box with a lid on it would be all grubby and dirty, I don't understand, but it wasn't. When they lifted that stone lid off, it was beautiful, clean as a whistle, you know, and it was beautiful to see. Everyone was mesmerised by its beauty for a few seconds, you know, and paused and just stood and looked at it. And then they were started telling us about why they believed this was going to be the best mummy ever found, you know, being sealed in gold, and they wanted to take the opportunity to reveal the mummy while it was in the tomb. And not that they would normally not do this, you know, but because it was so going to be the best mummy, you know, they decided that's what they were going to do. And shortly after he made this comment, he then corrected himself and said that, you know, an Egyptian lady, had come forward after seeing this part of the film that and explained to him that the mummies were actually made first and then put into the tomb. So that's how they actually found out about how the mummies were made, was by this film being aired. But anyway, so anyway, they lift off this gold lid off the golden casket, right, and to reveal the mummy, and that's when they first discovered the mask. And they were very excited about it, of course, but it was just more gold to them. They wanted to see the mummy, so they lifted the gold mask off as well and placed it on the ground. Well, when they took the mask off him, he had a book under his arms. Alright, a big book. It was about 10 inches long, 7 inches wide, and a couple inches thick. And they were excited because they stated that they only had a corner of a page with 3 words on it that was left behind when they burnt the oxygen out of one of the tombs. And that was the only evidence of papyrus from that time, So to have a book, he said, was potentially worth more than all the gold in that tomb. And he said if he could open it, he talks about the quality of the paper and how it's the best you can get even today. And if he could open it, he would love to show us inside. And that's what he did. He read the front of the book, and it said it was the diary of Tutankhamun. Now, his hands were all shaking when he was telling people this. He was so excited, and he said when he opened it, he said it was like the day it was made. It wasn't an effort at all. It wasn't fragile or anything, and he was able to open it right up, and he reads the first page, and it's a eulogy about Tutankhamun's parents when they reigned king and queen, and when they died, and when he became king, and when he died, all on this first page. And then they move on to page 2 and 3, and across both pages was the 4 insects that were outside, drawn across both pages. And in the middle was Tutankhamun and his wife. Now, on each picture of the insects was a UFO landed, exactly how we draw them today. Absolutely no different. There was the dish-shaped one with the squarish or the flat top that had the portholes in it. The second one was the dish shape with the dome top. The third one was the triangular shaped UFO with the circles in the corners, and the fourth one was like the upside down bowl with the 3 lumps balls under it. They all had their hydraulic landing gear and ladders down and all that, and their occupants standing in front of them. Now the first guys, they looked like little short chubby guys, chubby noses, long hair, long beard and pointy ears. The second guys were like us but with pointy ears, had long hair as well, but they were clean shaven. And the third guys were like the Nordic aliens we see pictures of, with the both blonde hair, blue eyes, skin tight suits. And the fourth ones were the grey aliens, but they were like 13 feet tall though. Now, he read the scripture in the middle, and it said that the Egyptians were being visited by 4 other worlds in their time, and these were the landing pads that they'd created so they could be spotted from space for when they returned. It was at this stage a bloke came up and whispered in his ear and informed him he must shut the book at this stage, and regretted he was so upset about it, this poor bugger, but he regrettably closed the book, and that was the end of the film. The very next day people demanded to see it again, but by then they'd cut it all out. Everything I just told you about was cut out of it. It was basically worthless, and that's why I don't believe you'll ever get to see it or hear anything about it, because they're suppressing everything about this stuff. Anything that proves that they were an advanced civilization, But anyway, why I want to talk about that for is because there was another video on YouTube I saw from Paranormal Crucible called Alien Egyptian Artifacts Discovered in Jerusalem. I'll put a link in the bottom for you to look at. But in this film, it was he was talking about this guy here, Sir William, who, when he died, they'd found him behind a bookcase, a hidden room, and in behind here. In that hidden room, they found all these. He was one of the well, he was an archaeologist, right? And this was like his private collection. And what they found in there were artifacts of aliens and stuff, alien heads. Now he found these in Egypt, right? Now, when you watch the film, I think they show you more of it, but look it up. But also they found 2 grey aliens that were dead on the in crates on the floor here. These guys, and in between them was this artifact, which I want to talk about. This here. Now, when I look at this, it reminds me very much of a headlight on a car. You know, because it's actually got a glass lid that's in 2 halves, and that's what you're seeing across the middle there is the reflection in the join. But, you know, it's precision built, and I would not be surprised if they are airtight, you know. But the reason I say that is because if you look in the bottom of this bowl here, it looks like there's a hole. And I think what was happening is this had a light in it, right? Shooting a beam, whether it was a laser light or a high voltage light, I'm not sure, but it lit up this whole thing like a headlight on a car. And I think it could be the beam of light that shines down on people when UFOs are abducting people, or, you know, cows or whatever, you know, like, you know, you hear and report it was like a whitish blue light that shone down on them and paralysed them, and next minute they're getting levitated into the vehicle or whatever. I reckon this is what it does it. I reckon it's this light. This is the light, you know what I mean? And it beams through this centerpiece out of the unit. And in this bigger chamber, as you can see, it's got these rails with these balls on the end. Now the reason that would be is because this was in a vacuum with hydrogen in there, right? And they had arcing going on across these, you know? And because they're all different lengths, they create different frequencies. Now, also being a plasma gas, they produce a bluish purple arcing, okay? And that's where I think this bluish white light comes from. And anyway, I did a bit of a 3D model of it, and I want to explain to you how it works with that, because I think it's just a bit more easy to understand. But anyway, I think this is the most important advanced alien tech or ancient technology that we've got on the internet today. Alright, and I'll show you how I think it goes together, but I have changed a bit. I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so this is the 3D model of it I made. And as you say, they're the balls you can see where the arcing's going on, and this lens here, this bit would be right down the bottom here somewhere, so you know, the light reflects up past all this, you know. But I just put it up high here because I wanted to show you these arms that are connected to these rails, right? They look like they got spring-loaded clips on them, and I think that is so that they can be moved around, you know, like to different locations, so that way they could adjust for different frequencies, you know. And this sort of setup would create such a variety of frequencies, it's just endless. And that's why, to me, it is some sort of a high voltage electrical device, you know. And I believe it's either a weapon, or it could be all of these things. It could be a weapon, a device for healing, a device for levitating, because everything's about frequency, right? And if they were to beam this light at one of the pyramid stones, you know, they could resonate with it and fill it full of electromagnetic waveforms or energy, you know, and make it become like a negative polarity to the earth and resist gravity, you know, and then they could just push it along wherever they want with their little finger. You know, I think that's more likely how they were doing this stuff. But anyway, it's just a thought, guys. And as I said, because of everything I knew about the Egyptians, you know, being visited by 4 other worlds, I've always known they've had high technology. So when I ended up reading the Bible, I knew they were in touch with advanced worlds, the ancient people, where all this religious stuff comes from. So to me, it was all about technology, nothing to do about gods, you know. That's just something primitive man made them into because they were being looked after, you know. So they thought. But anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about. So I'm just going to leave it with you guys for a bit to think about. But leave some comments if you can. I'd love to know what other people think of this device, and it'd be good. I'll try to get back to you on it. All right, that's Spaceman and AUS out.